Television, where we're continuing our discussion of what's going on in Ensley. You may have heard some things about Ensley, but I don't think you heard the good things that are going on there, and that's what we're here to do at Birmingham View. So we have another group of merchants who have already been pioneers in the area of Ensley, who are making some fantastic and wonderful changes in that community. And so we have in the studio with us today Mr. Antonio Spurling and his lovely wife, Marquitta Spurling. Good to have you on the show. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys being here.
We appreciate you inviting us.
So, I mean, I know we use these terms, urban pioneers, and it sounds a little bit condescending, but in a lot of ways you guys are, because you didn't really start, you're from Ensley, I know, but you chose on purpose to locate your business in Ensley some years ago. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. In 2006, we started to acquire some real estate in that area, particularly along the 19th Street corridor and Avenue E. And so we saw that as a great opportunity to not only create long-term investment growth, but also as a good launching pad to build a base for revitalization.
But why did you choose it? Because I mean, I think you had a place on the South Side, right?
Yes, primarily because that's home for me. Ensley's home for a lot of people. I think apart from experiencing and traveling, going around the world as we all desire to do from time to time, there's still a natural inclination for mankind to do good at home.
Go home, you get that home thing,
so
yeah.
Ensley's home to me, Ensley's home to my wife. We both graduated from Ensley High School, so it's more or less a project. It's one for the home team. And so even for those that have migrated through Ensley, such as the Italian community, Jewish community, the Caucasian community, it's still home to a lot of people in this great city of Birmingham. And I think that it was just a great investment. I still continue to believe that to this day.
And of course, being the supportive wife, did you say, or did you say you really got to go do this?
Well, I didn't, because I still have family that's staying in Ensley, so I don't think no was an option for me. So.
Yeah. So, and how long ago you said this was? Why are you laughing? Why do you laugh when you say that?
That's just interesting coming from her. It's been a sacrifice for both she and I, but it's been a very good sacrifice to the good, not only to the betterment of our family and our marriage, but to the betterment of the community. You know, if I had to write the last letter in my book, that I do desire to write a book I'm working towards at some point. I want to start reducing and writing. Bought with a price. In the last chapter, the last sentence, I would like there to be a statement that says he gave his all for everything he knew, which was where he was from. And I just believe that that's going to be, you know, the catalyst that really pulls inner cities back up above the flood lines. And I think that's what's going to ultimately be the catalyst to pull this economy back into its place of stability, where just, you know, good, hard-earned, hard-working individuals who desire to see community be rekindled. You know, with urban development or suburban development, it has gravitated so many people's attention, time, money, effort, and skills to move out of areas where they once grew up or knew as home. And consequently, you just continue to strip the resources of humanity in those areas, and then you strip the quality of leadership in those areas, and consequently you leave people unto themselves. And so unfortunately, but fortunately rather, I grew up in an area where merchants stayed in the community.
Yeah, you have Cottons and Gilmore's Drugs. They've been there for years, and they're really gone.
Right. You know, they committed themselves to you know, the vision of what the community stands for, and quite naturally the inheritance of their foreparents who started those businesses. And I think that's a much needed venture for this society by which we live, and particularly African Americans, because we have just not done well with regards to generational wealth succession and transference. And so we saw that as an opportunity to just kind of build that on various foundational bases.
And so with that, so you're building primarily businesses, and that's because you're buying primarily in the commercial area. You live in Ensley, or
not at present. We don't live per se in Ensley. Actually, we live in an area just outside of Ensley. We do have plans of taking some buildings and making some residential accommodations, just for us, and then for other people, obviously, too, as time goes on. But in my office, there's space for me to have a little flat or loft flat if we just wanted to spend a day or two or a night over.
Tell me, what is your vision for Ensley? You come in there, like I said, as a pioneer on the ground, inheriting the mantle from other people who've come in before you. But what's your vision for Ensley? What do you see happening there 10, 20 years from now?
Well, you know, I think that just at the inception of what was started in Ensley, I give total credit to Reverend Norred, who was a minister there. Henry Scruggs
did a fabulous job with the BEA stands for
Bethel Ensley Action Task Force.
And they started housing developments there at a time when nobody was really looking at that area.
That's right. They started in an area, I think it was called Sandy Bottom.
Sandy Bottom.
Yeah, and so Sandy Bottom was an area that Reverend Norred had an awesome vision to start with. Housing, and then expand into the commercial district of Ensley, and unfortunately he died an untimely death. And in 2005, just kind of looking at that and seeing some of the necessities and some of the needs in that area, I just thought that would be a great opportunity to kind of pick back up more or less, and I wandered into it, actually, to be honest with you.
So how did you wander into it then?
Without being spiritual, but just praying, just trying to see what would be the purpose by which I've been given breath, and my wife and I, while we're married. And I think it's a mutual concern for us both that we give ourselves holistically to this community as an assignment that's given us. And so I just don't want to forfeit my participation to make that area better. If there's anything I can add to it. So I encourage people, other people that have a kindredness to that area, to strongly consider investing in that area.
Yeah, and like we said, we just had David Bowers, who talked about his choosing to invest in that area, and people were just shocked and like, why in the world are you moving in Ensley? Did you get a lot of that, Marquitta, when y'all talked about moving over there?
We did, and it's ironic because we're from Ensley, so we had the same people who were from Ensley saying, why do you choose to go to Ensley? But like I said, it's home, so it was never a fear on my behalf to come to Ensley, but that's where we were led. So that's where we ended up.
And when you said led, I mean, do you feel like I said, this is your divine purpose, I guess, in a certain sense of being here? What do you think that you two can do? I mean, I'm not saying that you're in it alone, but you're just two young couple. What do you think you can do in this place like this?
Well, actually, what we're doing is kind of rebuilding, and I think that when people see a start, like they can see that it can happen, then it gives them hope that, okay, this might can actually be something. And as it continues, people are saying, okay, it's actually working. And then they, a couple of years later, they say, okay, well, maybe I can have a part in that. And so I think that's what it took for someone to actually just start. We had the staples there as far as Cottons and Gilmers, and those people have been in that community for a long time, but actually seeing yourself in that community and seeing that it's a doable thing, then it's just kind of catching on with people saying. Do
you think that Tribeca's clothing store would be there had you not gone there first and had your own consignment shop there? Do you think that kind of helped spur his decision to move into the area?
Right, because it's actually a market. And then
now we say a market, you said a market of people who want to buy clothes.
Right, and you got to look at where does his market come from? And so I'm thinking that he kind of keyed into that there is a market there. Some people are going there to do something.
Yeah, they got to buy clothes somewhere. They may as well buy it in your own hometown. Because your backyard.
Where he was, it was kind of, I want to say, seclusion, but people had to come from somewhere to get to where he was.
So the most
those
people,
same people come to Ensley to get what they want.
So they still come to Ensley. So he hadn't lost anything. Has he gained any new customers? I forgot to ask him that. I'm sure he does.
I'm thinking he has. I mean, I know, for instance, my mother, she had never been in Tribeca, but now she started shopping at Tribeca. So he's gaining some people who didn't actually come on the south side, who just stayed in the area, because I think that's how Ensley survived. That the people just stayed in the area and they didn't venture out. That's how Cotton stayed there so long, and Gilmer's has been there for so long.
So, and the first thing you did, you of course you brought your law office because you are an attorney.
Right.
So that's what you did there. And talk about some of the other venues that you also have in that area.
Well, Ensley Live Entertainment Loft is a building that we rent out. It's 5,000 square feet for weddings, receptions, banquets, and various other types of events. And then we have Playover Games and Movies, which is a business that we have where we buy, sell, trade games, and we also repair Xboxes, Wii's, and systems.
Yeah, and I think I walked by the other day, and you said that students come in after.
Yeah. So we have a actual plan where students can come and participate and actually buy time on the system. It's 99 cents for an hour as a promotional that we're running out. And it's good for kids because the average kid has $1 or $2 in their pocket. And so the thing now that I found through studying that market plan and looking into that is that games are becoming so expensive.
Oh, really?
You know, these games are $60, $70 a piece, and anytime you can give a young adult or a student an opportunity to play a game for $1 for an hour,
yay!
versus spending $70. I grew up in the day of arcades, and
I think I had the Pac-Man.
Yeah, big Pac-Man. You walk in and go to the grocery store, and you know somebody's buying grapes behind you, but you stand over in the corner playing a Pac-Man and Gallagher. And so if you couldn't get across town and go to a larger arcade, which they've started to, they're not as popular as they once were because of the cost of the systems and the profit margins. But we're trying to re-engineer that concept that you can come in and play on a $300 PlayStation 3 and a $75 game for $1.
Okay.
And so that just becomes very spendthrift and economical, and it's very affordable.